Hey guys, welcome back to Weekenders on the Water. Today we're here at home and we just recently returned from our jet ski trip to Bimini. And today we're going to talk about how much did that cost. So if you want to know, then you're in the right place. Make sure you stick around, check it out, hit that subscribe button, and let's go.
Let's go.
All right guys, so we don't want to bury the lead on this video, and we're going to go over how much exactly what we paid to go to Bimini, as well as what it would cost to go bare bones to Bimini. But if you do want to stick around to the end of the video, at the end of the video, we'll also be going over our lessons learned from our trip.
Yeah.
So lots of important information there.
Hang on, and you're telling me we didn't go bare bones to Bimini?
No.
Oh.
You thought we did?
I thought we did. Oh my God, okay.
All right guys, so we went on a trip from Miami to Bimini. It's 55 miles, and we went for 3 nights, 4 days. And what we spent was, we spent $5,300 for that trip. If you wanted to go for the absolute lowest cost, I think you could probably do it for around $3,200. But what does all that cover? So let's get into it.
So with that being said, what was our most expensive line item?
So the most expensive thing on the list is obviously housing, and that was the Airbnb. And we went as cheaply as possible on the Airbnb. You know, given what I had 6 months to plan out, that ended up costing me $850 for 3 nights of that Airbnb.
Is that including the boat slip or no?
That does not include the boat slip. That is separate.
Okay.
So because you asked about the docking, that was an additional $330. And that's because we actually split that 3 ways.
Yeah.
So we paid 2/3 of that. It would have been over $500 had we not split that with somebody else.
So link down below where we actually covered our entire stay at the Airbnb and at the resort as well. So with that, the Airbnb tour is on our other channel, Professional Weekenders, and that's where we cover a lot of like hotels and things like that in Florida and the greater area. But for all intents and purposes, pretty nice Airbnb for the price.
Yeah, absolutely. And since we're on the topic of lodging, another large expense was actually the hotel the night before. So that hotel, we spent $180 at, basically to sleep for like 2 hours.
You slept for 2 hours. I slept for about 5.5.
You slept for about 4 hours. I'm still not entirely sure that this one was worth it. You know, it's worth it that she gets to sleep in air conditioning, but if it were just me personally going by myself, I probably would just sleep in the truck the night before, because I was basically there and I was ready to go. I was so amped up, I wasn't really going to sleep anyways. So that's one of the things you could cut out if you wanted to go more on the bare bones side.
Yeah, just be mindful sitting at the boat dock though, because there are a ton of bugs in and around that area. So just be mindful that while you might want to catch some Z's in the truck, you might want to bring a ton of bug spray.
Maybe get a thermocell. I keep hearing good things about those.
Oh, okay.
All right, moving on. Another big expense was fuel.
Yeah.
We spent $200 while we're on the island refilling everything. That's our jet skis are 16 gallons a piece, plus we had another 20 gallons worth of gas cans as well. So you figure that's roughly 50 gallons that we bought there. It was $6.50 a gallon when we purchased on the island. So roughly $200 is what I remember. It was exactly $200 what we filled up. So we didn't have exactly 50 gallons, but you do the math on that, how much but it was $6.50 a gallon. We spent $200. And then we also probably spent about another $100 worth of gas before we even left. And that was, again, filling up the jet skis here in the US. And you know, we used our Kroger fuel points to try to get that. We paid $2.50 a gallon there. So, you know, always looking for a good deal. And we'll even put a link in the description down below to Get Upside. This video is not sponsored by Get Upside, but I do like to, again, try to get good value whenever I can. And I found that it actually does save money whenever I don't have Kroger fuel points, that I can use that and usually save like somewhere between 5 to 15 cents a gallon. So use the link in the description below, help support the channel. I really appreciate that. But yeah, you can save basically every time that you buy gas using the Get Upside app.
Yeah, there you go.
Moving on, another big expense that you have to pay is your cruising permit. So these are $150 per vessel. And even though these jet skis are small, one permit does not cover 2 vessels. We had to buy individual permits. So that's $300 worth of cruising permits that we spent. And that we actually paid that before we showed up. I think you can pay it when you get there, which would have been my preference, but the group that we went with suggested doing it beforehand to save time. My preference to pay at the Bahamas would have been just that way, in case it was canceled for whatever reason, we didn't have to pay it. But one upside of the cruising permit is it is good for 90 days. So if you plan on making multiple trips, you can do so without having to pay again.
So we got to pay again when we go next time?
Yeah. You seem like you're surprised at how much all this cost.
I am a little surprised. I'm like, it says fuel and lodging and some food. I don't think I realized.
Another expense that you have to pay is parking. So parking for 4 days costs us $77. That's overnight parking at Key Biscayne Boat Ramp. So next up is spending cash. This is money that we spent on food, on souvenirs. We bought some shirts and it's various. I estimate this. I think we spent about $400 over those 3 days. Food was fairly expensive while we were there, and I think again, if you want kind of bare bones, you could probably get this down to around 200 or maybe even less.
Yeah. So we did pack some food with us whenever we made the crossing. So we just thought of some things that were pretty easy to throw on the jet ski, right? So like Uncrustables and like a box of macaroni and cheese, right? So just something that's easy to make once you get there, because food is kind of expensive, but it's part of, I think, like the experience, going out and having a drink, getting dinner, that sort of thing.
Yeah, those sunset dinners were nice.
Yeah.
All right, next up, golf cart rental. So this was $120.
That was fun.
And I know that we spent more than we should have. I think this is $120 for 4 hours. If you book beforehand, you should be able to get a whole day for around $100. But again, if you want to go bare bones, you don't really need a golf cart, particularly if you're on the South Island. There's really nowhere to go anyways. And the island's not very big. So depending on where you're staying, things could be closer by. And you don't really need one if you don't want one.
Yeah, but we did cover the entire golf cart experience on our other channel, our Professional Weekenders. And with that, we drove all around the island and did all the cool things. So something fun to do if you want to get off the water for a day.
Yeah, and so link to that video in the description below.
Yeah.
All right, so that covers all the major expenses. Now let's get into the things that I would definitely recommend, and some of these I would say are more necessities as well. Number one on the list is a radio. So definitely get yourself a good radio. This is the Standard Horizon HX890. So really like this one. It's like kind of the premier handheld radio. It's got GPS built in, as well as a distress button there on the back. So if you do find yourself in need of help, you can just push that button there. No, okay. You can't. It'll be illegal.
Oh, okay.
But you push that button there, it'll send out a high frequency radio to all the boats in the area. So as far as, this little antenna is not going to get you very far, but it'll get a couple miles. And all the boats in the area that are listening, they should be able to get that distress signal as well as your exact GPS coordinates. So really recommend this. And this was just good for staying in contact with everybody else on the ride. So this radio is about $200. We also have another brand. We also have a cheaper brand that we'll also put in the description below. That one's around $120. Roughly has all the same features as this, but this, if you want the gold standard, the Standard Horizon is definitely the better one. So we spent $320 on radios.
It's a requirement to have one, right?
Not really, but I would not go without one.
Fair. Same.
Next up on the list is a personal locator beacon. This is the one we have here. This is the Fast Find 220. It is the most affordable personal locator beacon on the market. So these we found them on sale for $220 a piece. So funny, Fast Find 220, $220. Sometimes they're up to $300. There's other brands that are $300 or $400, but this one was pretty affordable. And they all pretty much do the same thing, where you pull, if you find yourself really in trouble, you pull this tab, a big long antenna comes out. It'll also do VHF like your radio does, but on top of that, it also has satellite too. So it'll link up to a satellite and notify the Coast Guard. So the U.S. government will come pick you up out of the water. And these things have a battery in them. They're only good for like 5 years. So every 5 years or so, you got to replace them. But yeah, so we spent $440 on 2 PLBs.
It's like crazy how much like life-saving equipment actually costs.
Yeah, well, how much is your life worth?
No, I get it.
Yeah. All right, next up, a quarantine flag. So you need one of these when you enter the Bahamas to tell the Bahamian Coast Guard that you have not yet, or Customs and Border Protection, whoever, they have not yet passed Customs and Immigration yet. So this is required. You have to fly this when you're, I think, 3 miles out from the island until you get through Customs. So we picked up 2 of these, 2-pack for $12. So
there you go.
that one was affordable.
Yeah, 1 for each vessel.
Yep. Next up is a bilge pump, and I don't have mine here because it's actually installed in the jet ski. Those were relatively affordable at $25 a piece. We also had to install those bilge pumps, so the plumbing kits for those were $19. So we're looking right around $100, with all in on 2 installation bilge pumps. So not too bad.
Yeah, but link down below where Lewis actually installed the bilge pumps on both the skis, so we'll link those down below. But then also where we actually had to use them on the way home because we had a ski ticket on water. So that was a good time.
Yeah. All right, so next up are dry bags in various shapes and sizes. So we already had a couple of these obviously already, but we bought a bunch more for the trip, just so that way everything that we needed to take with us would go in a dry bag, and we had to take our clothes and everything. And it's nice to have different sizes. Like this small one here, I could easily just put some tools into it. And larger ones, we could put, maybe camera equipment, or we had even bigger ones for our clothes.
And towels, yeah.
So all in all, we spent about $70 on various size dry bags.
And I recommend getting the ones that are actually a little bit thicker than maybe what is the most affordable option on Amazon. The ones that are made out of parachute material are more water resistant as opposed to actually being waterproof. So we went kayaking once, and we had one of the parachute bags in the footwell, and it got some water on it in the footwell, and then Lewis's phone actually got a little water damage to it. So invest in something that's going to protect your equipment.
Yeah, get the rubberized ones.
Yeah.
Next up is our Blue Cooper anchors. So we had 2 of these. These are, as far as anchors go, these are actually relatively affordable at $60 a piece. Granted, then you still also have to add anchor chain, anchor line.
Yeah.
We did already have that. So we spent another $120 on 2 Blue Cooper anchors.
We like the Blue Cooper anchors because they are a little bit more compact. They're a little bit more lightweight as compared to other flute anchors, and we like them better than the Sand Sharks whenever we go to Bimini because it takes up a little less space in the frunk.
Yeah, so the Blue Cooper is kind of versatile. It really excels at deep water anchoring, which is the Sand Shark, the typical beach screw-in anchor does not. But you can also use this in shallow water if you want. So we just, so while we have Blue Cooper and Sand Shark, we took our Blue Coopers to the Bahamas. All right, next up is our gas cans. These are the Sure cans. These are relatively expensive, but you get what you pay for.
Yes.
Really like these. They make refueling at sea so much easier, and they don't leak at all. And they get this nice little nozzle here that comes down, so that way you can set this up on top of the handlebars and just drain it right into your jet ski. You don't have to tip the whole can over. Also, an option is to get the ones here with just a solid cap on the back. I found that out during our test run, that the ones with the flapper caps, that those, I was basically smelling fuel the entire time. So I like the solid cap here that makes sure that no gas gets out and no water gets in. Yeah, these are relatively expensive. They're about $60 a piece. So we spent another $120 on Sure cans. We already had 2, so we had 4 of them total.
The reason why we like the Sure cans is because they are certified by the Coast Guard for being able to be used while you're at sea, and no mess, no stress. And if you don't want to have to hold a can, it really makes it easy because you just open your trunk, dump it in, close it, and then that's it.
Next up, I don't have it with me, but the Bahamian courtesy flag. You can choose to fly if you want to once you've checked in and passed customs. Again, they call it the courtesy flag. It's a courtesy to your host nation that you're flying a flag with their flag on it.
They aren't a pirate.
Yeah, and those were, again, we picked those up in a pack of 2 for $12. So you don't have to have them, but we did. Additionally, we bought a bunch of extra bungee lines because I wasn't sure exactly how the docking situation was going to be. We did a whole video on the Bimini Cove below, and we'll put that in the description below, so you can see exactly what that dock looks like. But before we went, we didn't know.
Yeah.
And didn't know if it was going to be a floating dock or a static dock, if it was going to be poles or cleats. So we bought a bunch of different extra lines just in case for any
options,
scenario.
yeah.
So we spent about another $34 on various bungee lines in addition to some of the ones that we already had. Next up, in order to secure our rack and the gas cans to the backs of the skis, we spent about another $40 on stainless steel ratchet straps to hold those on, and those have worked really well, not a speck of rust. All right, next up, a good set of hose clamps. So I did a whole video on how to use these hose clamps to clamp off the lines inside your jet ski if you need to tow your Sea-Doo. So we spent $12 on a set of hose clamps. I got like 6 of them for $12. So they're really affordable. So link in the description down below on where I did a video, and I'll show you exactly what hose you need to clamp. To answer the most commonly asked question on that video, yes, if you have a newer Sea-Doo, you do have to remove the deck. The plan for that was normally, if we're not out in the middle of the ocean, as long as the ski is stable, and floating, you could still remove it quickly while you're on it. Otherwise, you probably would have to tow it to a nearby beach. In this case, I kind of would have to just reach my hand in there, and again, hopefully I'd be able to remove it while it was at sea. But that is something to kind of consider. The next thing that we spent money on was actually repairs, and this was a big chunk of why it may be cheaper for you to go than it was for us.
Yeah.
Christine's ski is a fiberglass ski, and when we first got it, we were a little bit inexperienced. Thank
you for the ownership, honey.
I rode it over an oyster bed, put some little scratches in it, and the fiberglass was showing. It was never really a problem, but we wanted to get that addressed. And while we're at it, we went ahead and super slicked it, so that cost me $800. Which was $600 for the super slick, $200 in repairs, so $800 to fix that before we left. As well as just before we went we realized that the boot on the drive shaft that right in front of the impeller on her ski had come loose. And at the time I wasn't real sure how important that was. So I did rush it over to my mechanic the day before because I didn't have time to do it myself. It was supposedly going to be a quick thing, but ended up being a massive issue because bolts were breaking and
it was a whole thing.
It was an issue, but ended up he still did a good job for that, and that ended up costing me another $560 to get that rush fixed.
Yeah.
In hindsight, we probably could have just gone with it, and it probably would have been fine. But
now you know.
So next up is various tools. We bought a couple different tools. I talked about the long reach stainless steel pliers, as well as my long reach fillet knife to cut out any hoses or any kind of debris that might get sucked up inside the jet pump, but various other things as well. And we did a whole video on what to pack for Bimini, so if you want to see the full list on that, we'll put that link in the description down below. But we spent about $46 on various tools.
I thought you were buying me a sword so I could be a pirate. It's not what happened though, unfortunately.
Finally, anchor bags. So these are kind of like backpacks. They're actually for snorkel gear, but I found they worked really well for our anchors too, because they don't hold water, they drain, they're mesh on one side, but they got this nice zipper on the front here, so they're easy to access everything. And these were really cheap. These were actually only $10 a piece, so we spent $20 on anchor bags.
I like the anchor bag because I am very short, so if it's way down in there, I'm not having to pull out the anchor, the line, the chain. I can just grab the bag, pull it out, put it in my footwell, attach everything, throw it in, throw the bag back, and it's much more compact, so you're not trying to yard sail as you're drifting, across the inlet. Yeah,
keeps everything organized, especially with the rope and everything. It's all in one convenient package.
Yeah.
So that's it. That's how we spent $5,300 on 3 nights, 4 days. Anything you want to add to that?
Disney's cheaper. Annual passes for Disney is cheaper than going to Bimini for 4 days.
Yeah. That was a bucket list item that we're probably going to do again.
Yeah. So it's a twofer. But good news is we're going to have the crap.
Yeah, next time around it'll be a lot cheaper because we already have everything we need. So if you've stuck with us this far, we've got a little bit. Yeah, thank you. We've got a little bit extra that we'll cover. And these are lessons learned from our trip to Bimini. So just want to give you a couple little tidbits, McNuggets of knowledge here.
McNuggets of knowledge. I'll heard it here first.
Yeah. All right, so first thing I would say, definitely install a bilge pump.
Oh my God.
That was so totally worth it.
100%.
Yeah. Even if you don't have an issue with like your carbon seal or, God forbid you hit something and crack your hull or whatever, just the fact that these jet skis are going to be parked at the dock overnight. Most people don't do that with their jet skis, and that's how we found, like, I must have had just a slow leak anyways, but you let it leak for 12 hours, 16 hours, and you end up with a couple gallons. So having that bilge pump was definitely totally worth it. Yeah. Highly recommend, and I would not go on a ski that did not have a bilge pump.
Yeah, and it's relatively simple to install, right? At least that's how he made it look on the 2 videos that we posted down below for both my ski and his ski, but relatively... I consider it like an extra insurance policy because that's the other thing. You don't have insurance whenever you're in Bimini. So, important to have that. So the next thing we recommend doing is bringing extra gas. So not only is it more affordable to bring the gas with you, but it's also more feasible. So the first night we got there was no gas to be had on the island, right? So, and then on top of that too, if something happens and you need the extra gas, God forbid, to turn around and come back immediately, or there's an emergency and you have to get back right away, you, in essence, could be stranded for a day or two in Bimini until they actually get more fuel. So there are, I think, 3 places to get fuel in all of Bimini. So
2, just one on the North Island, one on the South Island, and then you could go to Cat Cay as well.
Okay,
but that's kind of further away.
Yeah, so within a 20-mile radius, there's only 3 places to get fuels. So I think it's important that you bring the extra gas with you, and then again, just to ensure that you have it.
Group that we went with, the Bahamas Challenge Facebook group, they recommend 5 gallons of gas, and I'm really grateful that we brought 10.
Yeah.
for us, I think it was totally worth it, particularly because we drive Sea-Doo GTIs, which have a smaller gas tank. We only have 16 gallons in our normal tank versus a full size, or like a GTX or RXP or whatever is going to have an 18.5 gallons. So we're already 2.5 gallons less than a normal ski.
Sure. And on top of that, we originally budgeted to not having to refuel whenever we stopped halfway, but given the conditions and we had to sink a little bit slower, we burned a little bit more gas getting over to Bimini than we anticipated. So we actually filled up at the halfway point on the way over. And the halfway point on the way back, just to ensure that we would have plenty to get there just in case something happened. I don't know about you guys, but I sometimes get a little range anxiety knowing that I've got only so many more little bars left until I'm going to be out of fuel. The last thing you want to do is coast into Bimini on fumes, and then there's no gas to be had at either of the islands, and then you're kind of just stuck there until they get more fuel. They
do run out sometimes, and they did while we were there for a day.
And we heard in the challenge group that like the line to get fuel when they finally got fuel was like 3 hours long.
Yeah, it was several hours long, and that was a big help for us too. That we already had gas, so we just filled up our gas cans into our jet skis, and we were able to go off and have an adventure early that morning before the crowds got anywhere. So we had everything to ourselves, and then we fueled back up later that evening or that afternoon. So all good.
So link down below where we had the USS Sapona all to ourselves, as well as the majority of Honeymoon Harbor for the first half the day. So.
Huge news here is yes, you can drink the water in Bimini. That saved us a ton of space and having to bring bottled water, a bunch of money of buying bottled water. We just drank the water right out of the fridge. I'm sure it had a little filter, but it was all good. We did not get sick. No. And going back again, absolutely 100% I would drink the water.
Yeah, no clue where we would have fit water from the US. So there you go. So next up on the list is doing a shakedown run prior to actually going to Bimini. So we did a round trip 80-mile ride from the Dunedin Causeway all the way down to Egmont Key and back. And that really helped, I think, build our confidence to know that we would be able to make it all the way there. With that, we also tested all of our equipment, how to make sure we are set with a deep water anchor. I'm gonna link that video down below of how you actually do that, in addition to our shakedown run. It's important to be able to think, right, and know what to do whenever you're out in deep water. What happens if your ski tips? What happens if you fall off? How do you get back on the ski when you've got, 20 extra gallons of fuel behind you? What do you do when this happens? What do you do when that happens? So test your equipment, make sure it works for you and it fits inside of your ski comfortably.
Yeah, and that shakedown run told us of a couple of places that we had there were holes in our plans. For instance, we knew you needed better gloves.
Yeah.
We realized that we didn't have ibuprofen.
Oh my God, yes, Band-Aids.
Band-Aids, yeah. So a couple, different things like that, various bungee cords and stuff. So definitely recommend it. Yeah. Next up is ensure that your trailer is in good condition. I have a couple of videos on the channel here where I've gone over like some trailer maintenance and trailer mods and stuff. Yeah. But interestingly enough, after we had gone to Bimini and come back, and then we're leaving, we were one of the last people to leave the boat ramp because we kind of take our time.
Shocker.
Yeah. But we passed by at least 3, maybe 4 trailers that had broken down from probably dunking in the water and then sitting in the parking lot for 4 days without getting properly washed.
Right.
So definitely make sure that your bearings are in good shape, your trailer is in good shape.
Yeah. Your tires are in good shape.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a long trip. For us from Tampa, and a lot of people come from all over the United States. So trailer maintenance is important.
Yep. Grease up those wheel bearings. Yeah. So next up on the list is knowing the fuel range of your ski. Right. So we have different skis, but our range is kind of similar, right? So with that, we know how far we can go. We know how far we can go in eco mode, and we know just how far to push it. But for a frame of reference is, a third of the tank going, a third of the tank coming back, and a third of the tank for reserve. That's just basic boating 101. So with that, know what your ski is capable of in terms of gas utilization, how it operates differently in eco modes, because we drove the entire way to Bimini in eco mode, again, to save fuel. And so with that, I think it's important that and understand the ski that you're on to make sure you're able to get to where you need to go safely.
Yeah, absolutely. As we mentioned with our GTIs, we have a smaller gas tank. We're about 16 gallons. We can normally get probably about 80 miles on that, and if we really want to stretch it, close to 100 miles. As you mentioned, the rule of thirds, the low fuel light does come on prematurely on Sea-Doos. It comes on when you have 2 bars left, which is actually about 6 gallons, about a third of your tank. And then knowing that, okay, we can get somewhere between 25 to 35 miles or so on what's left in the reserve. The jet skis probably get somewhere between 3 to 5 miles a gallon, again, depending on how hard you're riding, what the conditions are. And also the tip for you Yamaha boys out there, it is well known and a common issue with the Yamahas that they don't refuel accurately. So again, knowing exactly how much fuel you have and going through your settings on your Yamaha there to see how much fuel you've burned during your trip, that's going to help you, better budget plan your fuel usage.
So next up is we might have considered only bringing one of our Cooper anchors and maybe bringing the actual Sand Shark anchor instead. So by bringing one of each, you could daisy chain the jet skis together and be a little bit more versatile in terms of where you can go and where you want to anchor up at.
Yeah, both those anchors are really strong and they can definitely hold multiple skis. I've heard of both Sand Shark and Blue Cooper holding 6 or more skis. So R2 probably would not be a problem, and then that would have given us better options for deep water versus shallow as well.
Yeah.
Next up, as we mentioned, it's super important that you reserve your golf cart in advance if you think you're going to use one. Like I said, I think we got a little bit ripped off there and our time on our golf cart was cut short. So definitely would recommend reserving a golf cart in advance.
Yeah, and same thing with the boat slip. Do not assume that your hotel room or that your Airbnb or whatever automatically comes with a boat slip. So do some research about where you're staying and making sure that you make the proper reservations or proper calls, correctly. I could imagine being nothing worse than getting the whole way there and realizing, oh crap, I have nowhere to park my seat for the night.
Yeah, that would be pretty bad.
Yeah.
Next up, I would say bring some oil. Now, this wasn't an issue for us, but there were a couple skis that ended up being low on oil. And people were kind of begging in the chat for oil. And, I had kind of talked about it maybe being a good idea, and I ended up not doing it. But in hindsight, it probably should have, and it would have been relatively easy. So definitely recommend probably bring an extra quart. And then if you don't use it, maybe you can be a good jet ski buddy and share with somebody.
Yeah, and then on top of that too, definitely consider getting your jet ski, onced over by a mechanic, right? So find somebody in your area who you trust, who can look over your jet ski unless you are the mechanic yourself, and make sure that everything is in place and intact. I definitely think that's super important because you may not realize something's broken until your mechanic is just like, oh, hey, this is, shaking or this is whatever. So something to think about. Yeah, so it's very much island time in the Bahamas, right? So things open late and things close early. So for us, the first night we got there, we were just getting around and we wanted to have dinner at Radio Beach. It was like 5:30. And all of the places to get dinner were closed. And we're like, oh, okay, great. So highly recommend bringing something with you to eat, unless you plan to be like an early bird and getting over to a restaurant ASAP once you get there. So with that, we brought a box of mac and cheese and some Uncrustable like Nutella sandwiches, and that was dinner the first night.
Yeah, that mac and cheese was clutch that first night for sure. Next up, I would say definitely make sure that you bring the proper protection as far as sunscreen and bug spray. You're gonna need both of these in abundance, so load up on them.
Yeah, so we brought bug spray. I wore bug spray every day, but I still got attacked by like the no-see-ums. I mean, my legs looked like they were attacked by chickenpox. Yeah. So it was like 100 bites. So make good choices.
And I got one of those yellow fly bites. Those things will ruin your week, your month. They're not fun.
And finally, make sure you guys are staying with your skis whenever you are snorkeling and be mindful of that. So the current can be pretty quick sometimes, especially by the USS Sapona. So we watched other YouTubers where, the current wasn't moving that quickly and everything was fine. But the day we were there, it was pretty quick. So highly recommend you are mindful of your swimming level, and we kind of have a rule now that if one of us is in the water and the tide is a little bit too quick, then the other one is going to stay on the ski just in case someone needs to get saved. As we got towards the front of the Sapona, water was kind of going quickly around the front of it, and while I was swimming just fine, I wasn't making any kind of headway. So thank goodness Lewis was there. He was able to, bring up his anchor and grab me, and everything is fine. But just moral of the story, know your swimming level and just be mindful of how quick the water's moving.
Yeah, I would say don't swim alone.
No.
And when you do use the buddy system, make sure that somebody is with the skis or the boat or whatever. Somebody has some sort of way to rescue you. Yeah. And stay in constant contact with that person too. Just you can use the little diving signals that, I don't know if it's this or this. I haven't taken diving class, but something like that. I'm okay.
This on a motorcycle means cop.
Yeah. Okay.
So the final thing, and this is something probably we should have led with, is that we want to make sure that you guys understand the importance of going with a group of people who know what they're doing. This is not an entry level, I just got to ski, I'm going to hop on it, I've never been on one before, and make this trip across the ocean. Do not do that. Hear me good, right? With that, we highly recommend at least a minimum of 4 or 5 skis in addition to yourself, so a group of like 7 or more going. That way there's options, there's people to jump on with if something happens to your ski, and there's just more opportunity for someone to pay attention if something were to happen to you or to somebody that you care about. And highly recommend having a boat go with you in terms of a support boat, just to make sure that again you are safe and you're able to get there safely.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a dangerous trip. I know that we kind of make it look fun, and trust me, it is fun. But you've got to be safe about it. Do not go alone. People have gotten themselves into a lot of trouble, and a number of people have not come home.
Yeah.
So make sure you do not go alone.
Yeah. So read the weather, know the weather, understand your comfortability. If you've only ever jet skied on flat water in a lake in your hometown, this is not the ride for you, right? So make sure you are tested in seawater. And you understand how tides and chop and wind all works, because if it was any choppier they might have called it, right? But just thankfully we were with a good group, and everyone got there safely.
All right, guys, so that's going to do it for us today. We're going to go actually move on to some other content coming up, so we'll finally get away from the Bimini stuff. I know that there's a lot to cover there, and I'm sure that you guys have all loved all the details. But I think we're ready to move on. So the next video will be something completely different. So make sure you hit that subscribe button so you can follow along to see what that is. But in the meantime, let us know in the comments below what you think of the list. Is there anything that you think that we spent money on that you would not have? Anything that you think that we missed that you absolutely think is a necessity?
And let us know why it's important or why you think we spent too much money. I want to hear the why behind it, not just we spent too much.
Yeah, so let us know in the comments below. If you have any other tips or tricks about going to Bimini or any questions, let us know in the comments below as well on that. With that being said, we're out of here, and we'll see you next weekend.
Bye.
And you're making very pretty today.
Thank you, honey.
Hey guys, welcome back to Professional Weekenders YouTube channel. Today wrong video, wrong channel. Then at the end of the video, we'll cover.
Okay, you can see all that.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can do it.
No, it's okay because I don't know exactly what you.
The Bahamian Coast Guard,
Bahamian.
To tell the Bahamian.
Bahamian.
Bahamian. It's Bahamian.
Bahamian. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, not Bohemian. Yeah. Tell the Bahamian. We did already have that. Next up, I don't have it with me, but the Bahamian. Next up, I don't have it with me, but the.
Bahamian.
Next up.
I really think we could have made this into 2 videos, but.
Yeah, probably, but also I want to be done with it.
You're not using. Yes. So then, what am I trying to say?
Yeah. Oh, that reminds me actually too. So we'll have to put this back, and I'm sorry.
Are you?
Yeah.